I'm a woman who spent over 20 years in women's health, including years as a pharmaceutical chief executive officer, reading the research most people never see. And there's something about turning 60 that still surprises even experienced doctors. It's not a disease, it's not a diagnosis, and it has nothing to do with motivation or discipline. Turning 60 isn't just another birthday. At 60, the female body quietly changes how it operates. For women, it's the start of three predictable biological shifts that happen no matter what. Let's talk honestly for a moment. Many women enter their early 60s believing, if I just keep doing what I've always done, I'll be fine. And then, quietly, something starts to feel off. Your energy isn't as steady. Your body reacts differently to stress. Your confidence in movement isn't automatic anymore. Not in a dramatic, obvious way. Not all at once. You might notice it takes longer to recover from a busy day, or that stress lingers in your body instead of clearing quickly. And because nothing looks clearly wrong on tests or scans, many women are told, this is just aging. But that explanation doesn't sit right, because what you're experiencing doesn't feel random. What's happening isn't decline. It's a coordinated shift inside the body. And once you understand that shift, you stop blaming yourself and start seeing your body with clarity again. Here is the part most women are never told. Modern medicine is excellent at treating conditions. It's far less effective at explaining transitions. Most clinical systems are built to intervene once something breaks, not when the body quietly changes strategy. That's why many women are told everything looks normal, even when they feel different. Large longitudinal studies show that after menopause, women lose neuromuscular reaction speed faster than they lose muscle strength. But that shift doesn't register on standard tests, so women are left navigating a new biological phase with old instructions. And that gap creates confusion, frustration, and unnecessary fear. In this video, I want to explain what's actually happening once you turn 60, not in medical jargon, and not with scare tactics. Because what's happening isn't a problem to fix, it's a shift to understand. We're going to look at three predictable biological changes that begin at this stage of life. You can't prevent them, but you can respond to them intelligently. Understanding them won't stop time, but it will help you stop fighting your own body. And that alone changes how you feel every day. We'll count down from number 3 to number 1. And stay with me, because the final one explains why so many capable, healthy women suddenly feel less resilient than they used to, even when nothing looks wrong. Before we begin, let me ask you, what has felt most different in your body since turning 60? Here's what is rarely explained clearly. After 60, the female body is no longer organized around speed, output, or excess. It reorganizes around efficiency. That means your body becomes far more selective. Selective about where energy goes. Selective about how quickly it recovers. Selective about what kinds of stress it tolerates. This isn't a failure of the system, it's the system protecting itself. But because this shift is gradual and internal, it's often misunderstood. Symptoms are treated one by one, without explaining the larger pattern behind them. Fatigue is addressed. Pain is managed. Sleep is medicated. Yet the underlying strategy change remains invisible. What research across aging women consistently shows is this. Even after 60, the body remains highly adaptable when it's given the right signals. Strength can stabilize. Balance can improve. Confidence can return. Not through force, not through overload, and not through chasing the standards of a younger body, but through inputs that respect how the body now prioritizes energy and recovery. These insights exist in the literature. They're discussed in longevity and rehabilitation research, but they're rarely translated into everyday language for women living this transition. And woman to woman, that's why this conversation matters. You deserve more than symptom management. You deserve understanding, not just how to respond when something feels wrong, but how to work with your body so fewer things go wrong in the first place. That's the foundation for everything I'm about to share next. One of the first shifts after 60 is how your body handles fuel. Hormonal changes permanently alter how cells respond to glucose and stress. So even if your habits haven't changed, your outcomes do. This is why women say, I get tired faster. I don't bounce back the way I used to. I feel heavier without gaining weight. And the scary part is, it can feel like it's happening for no reason. You start questioning your discipline. You start blaming your willpower. But the issue is not effort, it's biology. Research consistently links menopause with a shift toward more central and visceral fat, which is associated with insulin resistance. In one scientific report study comparing premenopausal, perimenopausal, and postmenopausal women, the postmenopausal group had much higher visceral fat, also called VAT mass. In that same table, their estimated insulin sensitivity was lower, a median of 4.6 versus 6.7, with a p-value of 0.02. What's striking is that in these studies, this drop in insulin sensitivity appeared even when diet and activity patterns were reported as unchanged. That's the same habits, different outcome problem in numbers. Your body isn't betraying you. It's becoming more conservative. It wants predictability, not extremes. When women keep pushing variability, fatigue follows. And when fatigue follows, most women try to push harder, which is exactly what makes the cycle worse. And what makes this even more destabilizing is that energy isn't the only thing changing. The second change is less visible, but far more consequential. Around 60, the nervous system becomes slightly slower at coordinating movement. Muscle mass may still look fine. Strength tests may look normal, but timing changes. That split-second delay is often invisible on exams, yet very real in daily life. It shows up when you misjudge a step, or when you need an extra moment to regain balance, or when you hesitate before moving quickly. This affects balance, reaction speed, and confidence. That's why some women feel cautious on stairs or uneven ground. Even if they're still strong, they're not weaker. They're less certain their body will respond in time. The issue isn't power, it's communication. After menopause, changes in estrogen affect how efficiently nerve signals are transmitted and coordinated. The motor cortex still sends commands, but the timing and consistency of those signals becomes less precise. That reduced signal clarity is what makes movements feel less automatic, even when strength is still present. Long-term data from the Baltimore Longitudinal Study of Aging, run by the National Institute on Aging, tracked reaction time changes in adults over decades. The researchers found that reaction time slowed and became more variable with age, even in individuals without obvious physical impairment. This slowing helps explain why balance and movement confidence often change before clear weakness appears. It is most noticeable during transitions, quick corrections, and unexpected movements. That's when precise timing between the brain, nerves, and muscles matters more than raw strength. In other words, the issue wasn't weakness, it was timing. And when confidence drops, movement becomes guarded. When movement becomes guarded, the body adapts by doing less. Before we move on, I need to tell you something important. Most women assume feeling unsteady means something is wearing out: the legs, the joints, the strength. But more often, what's changing first is the body's ability to recover and reset. The nervous system becomes slower at returning to baseline after stress, effort, or surprise. So small challenges linger longer, fatigue lasts. Confidence doesn't bounce back the way it used to. When recovery slows, the brain becomes more cautious by default, not because you're fragile, but because your system is trying to protect you. And if that recovery capacity isn't supported, no amount of pushing will restore ease or confidence. Effort without recovery only reinforces the feeling that something is off. That's why what comes next matters so much. Because before strength or balance can feel reliable again, the body has to relearn how to recover. The research is clear, the outcomes are undeniable, and what I'm about to show you could be the most important 2 minutes of this entire video. The biggest shift after 60 isn't how much you can do, it's how quickly you recover. What changes is the relationship between effort and reset. Sleep becomes lighter, stress lingers longer. A busy day no longer just tires your muscles, it taxes your nervous system. And that fatigue doesn't always show up as pain. It shows up as heaviness, as needing more time to feel like yourself again. This doesn't mean you're fragile, it means your recovery systems are working differently. Your body becomes more selective about when it restores energy and how deeply it resets. Research from the University of California, Berkeley, led by neuroscientist Dr. Matthew Walker, shows that aging is consistently associated with changes in sleep architecture, including a reduction in deep, slow-wave sleep. Slow-wave sleep is the stage most closely linked to restorative brain processes. The study documents that this stage becomes shorter and more fragmented with age. As a result, sleep becomes less efficient and less restorative, particularly for brain function. These changes in sleep quality are also associated with declines in cognitive and emotional regulation. In plain terms, the body is resting, but it's not fully resetting. In other words, it's not only how long you sleep, it's how much deep, restorative sleep your brain is able to generate. Without clear recovery signals, the nervous system stays in a low-level alert state, not dramatic, but persistent. That's why so many women say, I can still do things, but everything takes more out of me. Here's the critical part. When recovery lags, confidence follows. You start planning around fatigue instead of ability. You hesitate, not because you can't, but because you're unsure how long it will take to bounce back. The good news is this: recovery is not passive, it's trainable. When the body receives the right recovery signals, the nervous system recalibrates, energy returns faster, stress clears more cleanly. But most women are never taught what those signals actually are. That's why understanding recovery is not optional after 60. It's the foundation everything else depends on. Here's the reframing I want you to take with you. Your body after 60 is not broken, it's selective. It responds best to consistency rather than intensity. Clear recovery signals, especially through breathing, sleep quality, gentle movement, and nervous system downregulation. Respect for recovery, including rest between effort and time spent in a true off state. Natural health works here, not because it's alternative, but because it aligns with how the body now prioritizes resources. When breathing slows, the nervous system resets. When movement feels safe and predictable, confidence rebuilds. When sleep deepens, recovery becomes possible again. When you stop forcing and start cooperating, confidence returns. Not overnight, but steadily. Because aging well isn't about doing more. It's about doing what your body is actually asking for now. Power doesn't disappear after 60. It changes form. And once you understand that new form, you can work with your body instead of fighting it.